I was able to sort of step back over the last few years and step out of the limelight for a second and kind of look at everything from an objectively as I could. And I just needed to live a little bit and kind of take some time off and come up with some new material to write about. And I love doing what I do for a living. It's very rare that you can make a living doing this. You only call when you're
He has stolen the hearts of millions with his music, charming, good looks, and we can't forget that voice. And he's here today to do it again. Jesse McCartney is no stranger to dropping hits, and he is in the house. Jesse, welcome to ET Live.
Jason? Good to see you, man. What's up, everybody? Yeah, good to see you.
Jesse McCartney in the house. Music.
Yeah.
Music. Let's just start from the beginning. Beautiful Soul, right?
Yeah.
2004, you dropped this amazing album. That song was everywhere. And I have to say, Jesse, that I went to several weddings that year and the following year, and a lot of the vows had lyrics from Beautiful Soul.
Yep.
Tell me about the song.
Well, I mean, it was sort of my debut. It was my debut record. It was the song that sort of put me on the map and kind of introduced me to, every home in America. I was, 15, 16 when it came out. And I remember when I first heard it on the radio, and I tell this story a lot, but I was coming out of high school, finishing my SAT exam, and not feeling very good about the math portion of the exam, and like really bummed out, thinking like immediately, man, I'm gonna have to take this over. And then I jumped in my car and I turned on the radio and I heard it for the first time, and I remember thinking like, I'm not gonna be a mathematician. Who am I kidding? Like, my song's on the radio right now, and it was Beautiful Soul, and that was sort of like the beginning of my career. And it's, here we are, years later, still making music.
Yeah.
So.
I have to ask, though, because you hearing your song on the radio, I mean, that just doesn't happen for everyone. Just pinpoint, like, what was that feeling like for you? Because it blows my mind to hear you say that just hearing your song on the radio.
I mean, it's, it's something you dream about, and it's such a surreal experience. It's an out-of-body experience. When you're a kid, all you want to do is pick up a mic and start singing, right? You don't care really who's listening. And then when you find out that everyone is listening, it's certainly a validating moment.
Right.
You're like, wow, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so it totally turns your world around, turns your life around. And that's at that point, that's when I picked up and I moved to Los Angeles. I grew up in a little small town in New York, moved to LA, and the rest was history.
Right. You mentioned that you took a step back. I mean, you've had such success as an actor, musician, pop star, Jesse, pop star. You took a step back. Why? Why did you decide to
well, I mean, jumping, 10 years later after, putting out numerous records, traveling the world, touring, being on, a bunch of television shows, I had, just sort of a point in which I realized, I hadn't gotten a chance to really stop, smell the roses, enjoy all of the places that I had just traveled to. I just needed a little break. I literally have been at this since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And so it was about the time I was 25, 26 years old. I kind of just needed to step back, relax. I got myself a house. I fell in love. I started traveling. I got to actually see the cities I was going to.
Sure.
I took up different hobbies. I did a bunch of acting and writing projects that I wanted to work on. I went to Nashville and did some country songwriting just because I wanted to. And then, it was about two and a half years ago, I decided I need to get back on the horse, so to speak. And my whole team was like, so are you done making music? Because we think you should be back out there. And eventually I got back and, into the studio. But, I just felt like I needed a little bit of me time. And because when you're out there doing this for a living, you're giving so much of yourself all the time that it's nice to have a little bit, have a moment for yourself. So, but I'm glad I'm back because these next few songs I've just put out are already making a huge splash with all of my fans, and I'm now getting new fans out on the road. So it's good to be back in the music game.
Yeah, 4 years, and I mean, you just mentioned that you gave so much of yourself, and you kind of had to water your own spiritual garden during that time. What was one of the most profound things you learned about yourself during that time away? Would you say, or like any hobbies you got into, or because you did a lot of regular people things, you bought a house. Yeah.
What is one of the things I learned most about myself? That I really truly love food and to cook. that I love to travel, and for me, like I just wanted to take that. I love nature. I think in this crazy world that I live in, we're constantly consumed with media and content. We're on our phones all the time. I was just talking to a friend of mine about this, where we're constantly on and wired to be on. That I've realized now that when I reach for like something to decompress, it's usually like nature or the sea or hummingbird documentaries.
Hummingbird documentaries?
I don't know. I'm making that up, but maybe. But you know, like just stuff that just kind of brings you back to
Makes you more present.
your primal self. Yeah. So so that's something I discovered in my time off. I just kind of got to be one with, you know, nature and food and cooking, and it was nice.
Listen, you've mentioned food and cooking. Word on the street is you can grill a mean steak, Jess.
I can grill, I can smoke. I do a lot of like smoking, like barbecue smoking. So this year I'm actually gonna smoke a short rib. My girlfriend's gonna roast a turkey for Thanksgiving, but I'm gonna do like a short rib on my smoker. And we're big into food.
I don't mean to laugh. It's just be like, you're so passionate about smoking this short rib, man. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You're back. Musically, what has inspired you to return? What was it? Was there something you heard? What was this, an itch to really have
I think just my fans. You know, my fans made it pretty clear that they wanted new music, and they were getting a little, I think they were just a little, getting a little bit impatient with the fact that it had been almost 4 years since I put anything new out. I hadn't really toured in a while, and you know, music is my first love. I always knew that I was going to come back to it at some point. I just didn't realize it would be that long of a gap.
Sure.
But you know, I was in a writing camp in Nashville that sort of sparked some creativity and kind of, I think, was the catalyst for me wanting to get back into the studio. And you know, and just the outcry and the pouring outcry of my fans who have been loyal for so many years. You know, one of the great things about social media, despite the fact that we can get consumed in it sometimes, is that they can reach out to you directly and say, hey, like, what's going on?
Where are you at?
Or, hey, we like this song, or we're not really feeling this song. And having that connection now with my fans is really sort of impacted my career in a positive way.
That's so wonderful to hear, Jesse. This is to go deep with you. Were you scared? You had 4 years away. Was there a little apprehension, thinking like?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, to get back in, you mean? Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, anyone who walks away for that period of time, I think there's always like this fear is like, are they going to have me back, or will they still care about my music? And you know, I sort of didn't know what was going to happen, but like I said, there was sort of like this core group of fans that would write to me and say, hey, we really miss your stuff, or it got me through this awful moment in my life, or this pivotal moment in my life, and you know, what's going on? Like, we really want to hear songs again. But then there's like the masses, right? And you're like, well, maybe they won't care. And the release of Better With You, which I put out earlier this year, I think really came at a time. It was, you know, the song was released, and it was much about its timing, I think, than it was just its writing. It was a really crazy time in the country. There was a lot of division. We had just come off of an election, and I wrote this song called Better With You. It was just like this feel-good song, and it was very reminiscent of like the earlier days, the Beautiful Soul days. Right. And it just like came at the right time, and I think it really struck a chord with my fans, and it was all of a sudden I was just like, I was back at it. So I think it takes one great song, and it takes your true, you know, full attention and your, you know, and your ability to connect with your fans. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, Better With You is this acoustic guitar led love affirmation, and you have the new song Wasted, which is a complete 180 from different thing, which is amazing. Has this tropical vibe. We've been jamming it all day in the office. Why the need to experiment with new sounds?
I mean, look, I like to write kitschy, fun, pop, catchy songs. Like, that's kind of what I feel like I'm good at. And Wasted is like, it's a song, it's cheeky, but it has heart. It's about a guy who wants more than just that 2 a.m. booty call.
Right.
And it's just a catchy, fun pop song. It's really, there's not a lot to it other than, you know, you listen to it and it's hard not to sing along. It's, you know, it's purposely written to be catchy. And I think after Better With You, which has a little bit more of a serious tone, or a little bit more of a heartfelt tone, it was nice to do something a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit more, you know, just a fun record. So we're going to shoot a video in the next couple weeks, which is exciting, and then we're going to tour the beginning of next year to sort of, you know, push the single as well. So, but so far people, I think, are super into it.
They're definitely into it. I really want to touch on the songwriting because, you know, a lot of people think that stars don't write their own songs. I mean, you wrote one of the most amazing songs for Leona Lewis with Ryan Tedder, "Bleeding Love," which was #1 in several countries. When you're writing a song, emotionally, what does that take you? What's that process for you?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, for it's different every time, and you don't really know what you're going to get. I think going in, you know that 95% of your work is never going to be heard. So you always have that in the back of your mind. So at the beginning, you're just kind of like, you know, you're hoping for greatness, but usually it doesn't happen. Like, that's the first thing to remember. I think if you always put the pressure on yourself to write something unbelievable every time, I think writing will get boring and just kind of you won't connect with it as much. I think you have to keep sort of your expectations down a little bit. That being said, that 5% or 10% of the time you do write something great, it makes it worth all the while. Yeah. And for me, it can happen in the back of an Uber. It can happen on an airplane. I'll think of something, you know, that's like, what if we made like, you know, your veins like that are rushing with blood, or you know, or your heart is pounding out of your chest, and like word association, and then write it all down, and then get in the studio and try to put something together. And in this case, it was something like Bleeding Love, where it's just kind of you're comparing the heart and the anatomy with being madly in love with somebody. And sometimes it sounds awful. Most of the time it does, right. But once in a while you strike, you have a magical moment. Yeah.
Right. It's so fun you talk about, because every time I hear Bleeding Love, I think of like, oh my God, you know, like cut me. It's just, but yeah. That's so on the money. You said earlier that you dabbled in country a little bit. Have you always been a country fan, or
No, actually, I had not always been a country fan, but now I'm a huge country fan. The last 5 years, I've been really listening to a lot of country. And like my girlfriend's a huge Jason Aldean fan and Thomas Rhett. And
you should meet Cassie DeLaura, one of the hosts, are a huge country fan.
Yeah.
Those are
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I really didn't know much about country. Sure. I didn't grow up listening to that. I grew up listening to soul and R&B and pop music, and so I got an invitation to go down to Nashville and write some country music, and I was a little scared just because it's a whole new world for me. But they were trying to infuse pop writers into the country world, and I think that's happening a lot in country music in general. The crossover is for sure there. And so they were bringing in pop writers, and I sat down, I got into the studio with both pop writers and country writers, and we did this sort of Nash pop writing camp. Okay. And basically a writing camp is when writers get together and they write a bunch of songs in hopes that some country artist will publish one or record one. And so, yeah, I have a catalog of country music that I've recorded that I don't know will ever see the light of day.
Okay, first of all, for everyone watching, we want this.
Yeah,
Jesse.
I bet. Well, maybe at some point, if I run out of stuff to put out, I could. I might.
You can't drop that and then not tell us that we're going to get it.
I know, but it was just such a cool experience to write something sort of out of your comfort zone. And country writing is really just it's like the ultimate storytelling, you know. Right. So I enjoy that genre of music very much.
So new music, new tour.
Yep.
Resolution tour coming up. You know, so when I was going down the Jesse McCartney rabbit hole, as I did all day today, first CD you bought was Crazy Sexy Cool from TLC.
Yeah.
Great. First of all, smash on that.
Dope
Great
record.
album.
Yep.
You're going on this tour. Who would be some special guests you want on this tour?
I haven't thought about that.
Why
actually.
Not?
I guess I should. I just direct messaged Mike Posner today because we met like a week ago. And I'm waiting to hear back because he was we were actually recording something very similar. It was in a live studio for Billboard, and we were doing something, and basically he knocked on the door and we were live, and I couldn't like talk to him, so he had to leave. Yeah. But I've always loved his writing. I think he's a super talented songwriter.
He is.
So I don't know. We'll see if he slides back into my DMs. But
Mike, holla.
So yeah, and then I don't know. I mean, I'd love to do a duet at some point with a female artist. I don't know if I've ever really done that. I toured with Jordan Sparks many years ago, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm open to collabs. We haven't locked anything down just yet.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned with my own material and making sure that all of my songs sound good live before I worry about anyone else on the stage.
We'll cross that opening guest feature.
That's it.
Bridge when we come to
That's it.